Thank you for joining me. This is a 30-minute practice, Happy Hips. Beginning in Shavasana, taking your feet towards the corners of the mat, placing one hand on the lower abdomen and one on the rib cage very gently. Just let the arms rest on the floor. You may wish to bend your knees if your back is aggravated at this point in your practice. Begin to connect with your breath, feeling the breath ease in through the nose, expand through the lower, the middle, and the upper part of your rib cage. Noticing this without force. And when the breath leaves the body, feeling the collarbones and then the rib cage and the belly descend completely towards the back body. This is a very fluid 3-part breathing. We're noticing not only through the front of the body, but pay attention through the circumference of your lungs. You may release the hands. You'll be encouraged to pay attention to this breath through the remainder of your practice. Remember that the breath is a barometer for your practice. Begin to flex your knees, planting the feet flat on the floor underneath the knees, allowing a gentle rocking across the back of your pelvis. Knees gently side to side. Maybe play a little bit here with the distance between your feet and your knees. Allowing the movement to originate from your low back pelvic area. So there's an intentional rocking across the back of your pelvis. Beginning with some smaller spinal movements here, maybe even the neck gently moves from side to side, never flailing. Connecting this movement with breath, inhaling as the knees come to center, and exhaling as they descend to a side. Gently easing movement into the hips and the low back region. Allow your knees to stay towards the right. If this is uncomfortable, you can stack your knees or draw your knees a little bit closer together. You may extend the arms above the head if they're supported on the floor. And begin to take your knees over to the other side. Pause here for a few breaths. When the knees come back to center, bring the arms back down alongside the body. Let the knees descend to the right, with the option of taking the right foot onto the outer left thigh. If this aggravates the left knee at all, remove the foot. Maybe stack it underneath the knee. Beginning to feel sensation through the front of the left hip, the outer part of the left hip. Being curious where those sensations rise and fall. And throughout this practice, taking breath into those places that seem resistant or tight. Maybe taking the mantra today with where the breath goes, the energy will flow. Let's switch sides, draw the knees over to the left, taking the left foot on top of the right thigh. Notice how the right foot is resting on its inner edge, and this rotation is from the inner edge of the right hip. Today's practice is predominantly the area of the hips, so pay good attention to let the movements originate in the area of the pelvis. Never forcing our knees today. Let's place the feet, the ankles underneath the kneecaps. The thighs are parallel. Imagine that you're holding a block between your thighs to keep the glutes active. Initially, you may begin to lift your hips, knowing that we're coming into bridge pose, but for a moment, let's come into pelvic rocking, using the deeper abdominal muscles to create this movement. Like you're moving vertically along your sacrum. As you exhale, abdomen pulls to the back body, and it lifts the base of your sacrum. As you inhale, the base of the sacrum drops down to the floor, and the top of the sacrum gently rises, just a gentle rocking forward and back. neutralizing the pelvis. Bring the arms alongside the body, arms stretching down to the ground. Inhale, elevating your hips. Ensure that your glutes are active. And there's action through the inner thighs. And the back of the head on the ground. The chin about the same height as the forehead. So being careful that the chin isn't jutting up. Feeling the firmness in your thighs and in your glutes. You're going to rise and lower mindfully a few times. The idea of letting the rib cage come towards the chin. Perhaps interlinking your hands, stretching the knuckles down towards the feet. Keeping those knees in a parallel position, avoiding them from splaying out. So if you have too much glute action, they'll splay out. So it's helpful to keep that inner thigh action and use a block here if you find that your knees or your feet go wide. Breathing into the front of the body and exhale, slowly lowering down. Using abdominals, draw the right knee into the chest. Maybe hold the thigh or the shin. Let that knee circle around. So we'll do some asymmetrical movements today with one leg and then the other. So circling that right knee around about 3 or 4 times and then 3 or 4 times in the other direction. Again, the movement originating from the area of your hip socket. Planting that right foot down. Abdominals, draw the left knee up. Letting it circle 3 or 4 times in one direction. And then switch directions. Lubricating those hip sockets. Let's plant the left foot down beside right, extend it down along the ground, coming into a reclined tree pose. Often we do this standing. So imagine that you're standing, keeping that left foot active, left thigh active, pelvis in a neutral position. So the left hip and the right hip are equidistant from the floor, rotating the right knee out to the side. A lot of external hip rotation today. If necessary, to avoid the left glute or hip from rising up, place a block or a blanket underneath the outer aspect of the right knee. Finding breath. Bending that right knee, extending it down along the floor. Switch sides, rotating the left knee out to the side. Right thigh is active, right toes pointing up. Quadriceps of the right leg stable. Finding the breath through the front of the body, the sides and the back of the body. Inhaling, left knee, right knee, and exhale, both legs in external hip rotation coming into reclined butterfly pose. If you find that your lowest part of your rib cage is overarching here, maybe hold the outer parts of your thighs. If you're able to maintain a relatively neutral spine, maybe assist gravity with the weight of your hands on your thighs, never forcing, just gentle suggestion or encouragement. Keeping the neck in beautiful alignment with the rest of the spine. Notice how the chin isn't trying to reach up. Bring those knees back to center. Abdominals engage. Anytime you draw your knees up, don't just use hip flexion muscles. Use your abdominals to start to initiate those movements. I'm going to hug both knees into the chest, recruiting your transverse abdominis, the deep abdominal muscles, maybe wrapping your arms around your shins or holding the back of your thighs. Inhale, exhale, hollow out the belly, elevating the chest towards the thighs. You're holding the pose, but you're not holding the breath. If your neck is aggravated, give it gentle support. The belly stays strong, and slowly lowering the head down if necessary beforehand, and maybe beginning again. The ankles aren't crossed here, nor are they touching. Maybe reaching the fingertips beyond the outer edges of the feet. Pavana Muktasana, wind release pose, slowly lowering down. Extending the Left leg up to the sky as you hold the right knee in. Hamstring stretch through the left side, reaching through the left heel. Strap's always an option, of course, at any time. Bending that knee, extending the right leg up to the sky. Ensure your quadricep of that right leg is active. Breathing through the length of the right leg. Those abdominal muscles are supporting you here. So again, if you're finding that your back is overarching, recruit more of your abdominal muscles. Drawing both knees into the chest. And slowly circling your knees in one direction. And then the other direction. Planting your feet on the floor, we'll come into a figure 4 position. The left foot on the ground, taking the right outer edge of the foot, lining up with your left thigh bone. Make sure the ankle here isn't lazy. I often look out and see sort of the ankle being sacrificed. So you want to have muscular energy around that ankle. Keep it stable. Continuing to work the right knee out and away from the body. This is a nice option for people if pigeon pose is not available to you. You can always remember to come to figure 4. And perhaps you'd like to grow your practice from keeping the foot on the ground, but you can't quite reach the thigh. You can always use a block underneath the left foot, continuing to encourage that external hip rotation of the right foot, the right hip. Breathing here. Upper body is relaxed. Again, checking the position of the chin and the neck. The cervical spine. Nice deep opening through the outer right hip. Notice what happens if you either point or flex that left foot or extend that left leg up to the sky. Got lots of options here to explore. Still keeping lower back relatively even left and right side of the body, so you're not lifting it up. Let's release the left foot down. We're going to bring those thighs close together, coming into cow face pose on our back. So right knee squeezes over the left. I like to cue in class that it's almost like you have to go to the bathroom and you're squeezing your legs really close together. So maybe holding behind the thighs or using a strap again if the legs are not available without lifting the upper body off the ground. See if you can keep that upper body relatively relaxed. And protect those knees by keeping those ankles really stable. So notice how the feet here are positioned and they're not just relaxed and lazy. Breathing into your hips. And perhaps if you like to exhale, slowly lifting the nose to the knees. And then releasing left foot down, uncross the legs. Let's come into figure 4 on the other side. Externally rotate that left hip. Outer edge of that left foot lines up with the right thigh bone. And there's muscular action through the left ankle, so it's not flopping. We're not sacrificing the ankle to get into this position. Movement is originating from the left hip socket. Choosing your variations, wrapping the hand behind the thigh or around the shin. Keeping that left knee working away from the body, maybe gently suggesting that with the assistance of the left elbow. Continue to check in with your upper body. Broaden the upper back, broaden the chest. Let the breath flow evenly and fluidly. And explore what happens if you relax the right foot or if you extend the right foot up to the sky. Again, quadriceps engaged. Feeling this experience across the area of your hips. Bending into that right knee, preparing to come into reclined cow face pose or Gomukhasana. Left leg crossing over the right, nice and close together so that the knees are stacking above each other. You could use a strap. You can hold the thighs. You could hold your shins or the feet as long as that doesn't cause the ankles to collapse. So we're not looking here for pronation or supination of the feet. We just want them to be in a nice, beautiful neutral position here with muscular integrity. Let this movement be felt in the area of your hips. Be exhaling, engaging belly, and letting your head rise up. And keeping the belly engaged as you slowly lower down. Uncrossing the legs, planting the feet on the ground. And take those knees again a little bit wider, feet a little bit wider, maybe about shoulder width apart as you let them gently rock side to side. And just notice if it feels any different than the first time through this. Arms can be a comfortable distance, palms facing up from the body. Maybe that rocking moves a little bit more past the pelvis into the mid-back as well. And if you roll over onto one side, stacking knees, support your head, pressing into that top hand. Coming to a seated position. Check in with your spine if you feel like you're collapsing and have you elevate your sitting bones. We'll extend the left leg and the right foot is coming to the inner left thigh. Left toes pointing to the sky, reaching through your left heel. Keep that heel on the floor if possible, depending on how your body is designed. Left quadricep is active. We're not trying to collapse around the spine here. Maybe back off if needed. Now we're going to come into half shoelace pose, stacking that right knee over the left. I'll rotate here so you can see what's going on. Again, notice the stability through my ankles. I'm moving the flesh from the sitting bones back, not wide. Inhaling, and on the exhalation, lengthening the spine over the thigh. Not dropping the head, nor overexposing the throat. Finding breath through the sensation here. Inhale to rise up, extending that leg. We're going to draw the opposite leg in, so left foot to inner right thigh. Right toes pointing up, inhale, and on the exhalation, pelvis rotating over the thigh bone. Allow the spine to lengthen, keeping your neck in a neutral position. Chest stays open. Keep space for your breath throughout. Breathing through the circumference of your lungs. Let's take that leg and cross it over top of the right, so stacking left knee over right, coming into half shoelace pose. Inhaling and exhaling, folding forward. It's helpful to smile inside and out here. Give some love to your hips. People that come to my class know I call this our junk drawer. So just releasing some stuff from your junk drawer. Always feels good to clean that out. Preparing to come into pigeon pose, maybe extending one leg back and then the other for a moment. And then from tabletop position, be sliding the right knee into the inner right wrist. Extend the left leg back in space. If this is not available to you, you can come back onto your back and come into that figure 4 position that we did, or maybe coming into another variation that suits you. You might use a block underneath the right glute or hip. Keep that pelvis in a neutral position. Sometimes I see people kind of tilting down. Maybe a block underneath your forehead. And you would only work that shin towards parallel with the top of your mat if that movement is coming from the right hip socket. I just like to remind people, just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. So pay good attention. Hyperflexibility isn't better than tightness. You want to find that beautiful balance. Pressing into the hands. Inhale, coming up, sweeping that back leg around, preparing for seated spinal twists. So placing the left foot flat on the floor on the outside of the right knee. Another option for this is to extend the right leg long. Inhale, get tall through the spine. On the exhalation, beginning that twist through the base of your pelvis, rotating over towards that back shoulder. Hugging that knee in. Keeping the spine elongated, inhaling, getting tall, and exhaling, experience the rotation. Inhale, come back through center. Coming into pigeon on the other side, left knee inside the left wrist, extend the right leg back. Option of the block underneath the hips or underneath the glute. Option block underneath the forehead. Adjusting. Neutralizing the pelvis, inhale, and on the exhale, descending, melting down. Easing the breath here through the body. Notice the sensation through the outer left hip. Maybe the front of the right hip, if those hip flexors are restricted. Position of the back foot is toes pointing back. Sometimes it's helpful for people to tuck their back toes. So you might want to explore that, see which one feels better. Sometimes tucking, pressing through the heel, and then releasing is a nice option. And remove that block if you have anything. Sweeping the back leg around, preparing for seated spinal twist. Right leg over the left. Remembering the option to have the left leg extended or crossed underneath. Check to make sure you're not sitting on that heel. Inhale, lengthening up through the crown. And exhale, discovering the rotation, looking over that back shoulder. Hugging the knee in towards the chest. Shoulders in the same height here, so one isn't up or down. Notice if you tend to lean back onto the hand. If so, walk the hand in closer to the body. If your arms are a little bit shorter, you can always use a block. If your arms are a little bit longer, you might have to bend your arm or wrap the arm around the low back. And come back through center. You're either going to cross the legs or prepare to come into double fire log, sometimes called double pigeon, or alternately double pigeon, two different poses. Fire log, ankle over knee, or double pigeon, knee over knee. Keep those back of the hips on the ground. And again, let this rotation be felt through the hips. You want to avoid any knee pain. You may be at your edge by keeping the head elevated. Others may have a little bit more available and bow down. We're going to switch sides. Whatever you did on the other side, do it on this side. So we're doing Gomukhasana legs. Heels working about the same distance from the outer hips. Healing, and on the exhalation, lengthening the spine forward over the thigh bones. Maintain the integrity of your spine. Ease your breath through the spine, through the hips. Inhale, coming up, coming towards the end of the active part of our practice. Inviting you to take whatever you need to come for a 5-minute meditation. So maybe blocks underneath the outer edges of the knees, maybe a blanket or a bench to sit on, or a meditation cushion. It's important to take time on the setup so that your physical body isn't distracting you through the meditation. Now that the body is situated, make any last minute adjustments to be still. But not rigid or forced. Notice all the points of contact where the body is supported by either the chair or the cushion on which you sit, maybe the floor. Noticing any tendencies to label the experience of soft or hard, smooth or cushy. Notice where your body ends and the space around it begins. allowing the attention to move to the periphery of the body. Notice how the body expands into the surrounding space as you inhale, and recedes or softens as you exhale. Observe this a few times. Inclining towards the breath with a sense of friendliness and attentiveness, a sense of curiosity. Not forcing, simply observing the expansion and then the softening. Having an affectionate attention towards the breath. Sweet attentiveness. Watching in a relaxed way. Thoughts may come or go. Come back to feeling the breath expanding and receding into the surrounding space. Observant, curious, at ease with yourself. Friendliness towards yourself. Watching. Feeling. Being. Placing your hands on your heart. Speaking kind words to yourself with friendliness. Thank you for showing up to practice. Honor your light. Namaste.